you were an enterprise B2B buyer a few years back, you likely started searching for products by using Google or by asking peers and colleagues. Your research might include reading blog posts, downloading content, or watching a webinar. And that activity put you on the radar of the vendor's sales and marketing efforts. Today, you might turn to an LLM, which provides a lot of information very quickly and leaves vendors largely in the dark, at least in the beginning. Today, we're talking to Mika Yamamoto, Chief Customer and Marketing Officer at Freshworks, about the state of enterprise buyers in the AI era. Welcome to Conversations with MarTech.
Hey there, I am Mika Yamamoto, and I'm Chief Customer and Marketing Officer at Freshworks. My remit is that I get to work on marketing efforts here at Freshworks. I also lead part of the sales organization in new business expansion and customer success. And I deliver support for all of our customers. And so the benefit for that is that I get to see the whole customer journey end to end and get to look at, and I'm accountable for, removing friction from that experience and adding delight to that experience and driving the trade-offs that entails. Our company, what we do is we offer a support software, AI-powered support software for employee support. So, for example, IT support, HR support, and then customer support as well. And what that means is that we help agents respond to employee inquiries like, hey, there's something wrong with my laptop, or customer inquiries, hey, my bike is broken, can you help me fix it?
All right. So let's talk about those enterprise buyers. We have a lot of conversations around MarTech about the state of marketing and maybe the state of certain tactics within marketing, like email marketing or content marketing, as they relate to the upheaval that everybody's going through thanks to AI.
Yeah.
So what is the state of the enterprise buyer? They've got all this power and information at their fingertips, even more than they did 3 years ago. But that's also got to be overwhelming.
Yeah, I think that there's things that have changed dramatically and some things that haven't changed at all. So if you think of the things that haven't changed at all, the bottom line is that we're all, as leaders within companies, still beholden to the same thing, which is grow revenues faster than you're growing costs. And because of AI, we're actually under a lot more pressure to do more with less. And because we hear from our boards, we hear from, executive teams, hey, we hear AI is a thing, and we hear, everybody has an anecdotal story that says, hey, they were able to cut costs by 20%, but still grow their revenues just as fast or faster. And so I think that the fundamental challenges that we're all facing as business leaders are the same. It's just that the environment is extremely noisy and crowded. And what I mean by that is that I don't know, Mike, how many inquiries you get, but I do know that I get, dozens and dozens of inquiries through every channel that possibly someone could connect with me with on, I have a new and amazing solution that's going to, rock your world. And I think that that's really challenging as an enterprise buyer to be able to wade through all of that hype and be able to understand what is actually real, because we do have to find real solutions, and there are real solutions out there that can help us drive efficiencies, raise the bar on customer sat, and help us grow. But there's a lot that can't. And so we're having to wade through and understand the difference between the two, which is really challenging because because we want to make impact. There just takes a lot of time to be able to wade through all the hype.
Is there a trust gap that people have to overcome between buyers and vendors? And is it worse on the B2B side of our lives than the B2C side of our lives?
I guess I'm biased. I think it's worse on the B2B side than the B2C side. But just because I feel like there's more hype on the B2B side, frankly. I think the B2C side is a little clear, and there's a lot of tools that it's clear which, what does and doesn't work. And you get, more immediate feedback, I think, on the B2C side from, peers and other review sites. So from a B2B side, I do think that there is a vendor trust gap. I think that, frankly, we've got this AI fatigue, right? I was at a customer conference, and I was at several customer conferences actually over the last several weeks. And there was an applause for and there was a count of how many minutes it took or hours it took for the mention of AI. And I was at one customer conference where it actually had been a day where there had been no mention of AI. we were talking about the same business problems, and we were talking about solutions. We weren't ignoring the fact that AI existed and AI is a thing. We were just talking about business issues, and there was actually an applause from the people who are all B2B companies. It wasn't a vendor scenario. It was just a bunch of companies that deal in the B2B environment, just talking about business issues. And so I think that, the trust gap is that there's so much AI washing and so much AI conversation about the technology. And I think we've somewhat lost sight of the fact that the fundamental that we just talked about is that, the fundamental is that businesses are still operating in the same way and that they have to grow faster than they're spending money. And we have to do more with less. So let's talk about the business challenges and issues and how the solutions that vendors can offer can solve those challenges and issues versus, talking about AI, just because I think that there's AI rejection. And so if there's too much messaging about AI, too much messaging about features and functions and technology, it's starting to become noise, and we're starting to just ignore it or, walk past those messages.
What do you think is responsible for the trust gap? Is it the noise? Is it past experiences where maybe vendors didn't deliver? Is it, you were talking about the volume of messages you receive, right?
Yeah.
Like we all get bombarded with messages. Does all that sort of accumulate and you kind of don't trust anybody because you're so overwhelmed?
I think it does all accumulate. And I think that there's a lot of hyperbolic generalized statements. Feels like a lot of over promising and under deliver, because in some cases it is. I mean, you've got a lot of very, it doesn't, you can use a lot of tools right now, thanks to AI, to stand up a company and have a solution that seems enterprise ready. And so, the proliferation of companies that have come onto the stage, thanks to AI, because of how fast you can, because of AI, and is astronomical. And so the number of startups that have come onto the stage is huge. So I do think it's the volume. I do think it's the message. And I think that it's figuring out what's real and what's not among all the vendors that are approaching us is the challenge. And so the biggest benefit is getting together with peers to be able to net things out and share stories about what's working and what's not. The biggest benefit is hearing from vendors who have real stories and saying, hey, these 3 brands have benefited in this way, and not just flashing the logo, but actually being able to get into the tangible business value that a business has been able to enjoy, and not just a small subsidiary off in the corner where there's 3 people using it. I think that what we're looking for is the examples, from vendors that can actually show the business value, tangible, measurable business value, and where you can show it in a production environment. And so I think that there's a way to get through it and break that trust gap. But it's going back to the basic, to the fundamentals that haven't changed in terms of what we're looking for as enterprise companies is business value, and talk to us about how you can affect that business value with real customers at scale.
Yeah. I think, we've talked about all sorts of things that haven't changed. We're growing revenue faster than expenses. We're trying to attract new customers. We're giving them, what we sometimes call social proof that things are working in other environments. So,
right.
But the playbook has to change because the buyers have changed, right? The use of the LLMs instead of Google has kind of changed a bunch of things about content marketing the way we used to do it. So where do marketing leaders start when they write the playbook for reaching the enterprise buyers that are out there today?
Well, it is starting with the fundamentals that haven't changed. And I'm not trying to, I'm completely not, kind of have, ostrich in the sand saying AI isn't a thing. I'm saying it very much is a thing. But I think that we as marketers have to make sure that we're focusing on the fundamentals, which haven't changed. Is you have to know who your customer is. Like, who is your customer and who you're trying to target? Because you can't be all things to all people. When you try to be that, you end up going into the trust gap, right? You end up falling into this trust gap because there's no way that one company can actually be all things to all people. So understand your ICP, right? And who you are. Understand your ICP's wants and needs. Be really clear on a value proposition, right? Be clear on a value proposition and be able to answer the question of why you. I think the thing that has shifted is the type of content that we need to put out now. It's not just driving and optimizing content on your website for SEO. We obviously have, we have Claude, we have GPT, we have Perplexity, we have these LLM models that are crawling for content, and they're crawling for content in different places and different types of content, long form content, for example. And so I think that what has to change is not having a compelling message, but making sure you're putting that compelling message in the right place so it's discoverable. Google has changed its algorithms, so you have to make sure you're still searchable, because most searches still take place on, via Google, but a growing number of searches are taking place on, within, conversational AI tools. And so you've got to make sure you're optimizing for both, not one or the other. And that means different types of content, clear messages, and different channels, and being able to measure very quickly, daily, weekly, monthly, which channels are resonating and where your message is getting picked up by these models, whether it's an LLM model or whether it's Google with its new algorithms.
Right. A lot of brands seem to be focusing on authenticity, help them build lasting relationships by being authentic, or at least the face they want to put on authentic to their customers. Is there something counterintuitive about that in the age of AI, where like you can have an agent get all the information about all the brands that you're considering in a matter of seconds? Does authenticity still matter in a scenario like that?
I think it does. I mean, don't you? I mean, I think it absolutely still matters. I think it just, I think that it's clear. And what's amazing is generationally how much clearer it is among, younger generations on what is AI content and what is not AI content. I think but I think across multiple generations, there's more of an acceptance to receive information via a bot, for example, for someone who might change your flight, cancel your flight, shift a ship date for a package. There's a lot more openness to have a conversational AI tool that takes action on your behalf, to let that take action on your behalf, versus 2 years ago where I think there's some mistrust of that. But I do think that the authentic human connection is still something that people crave when they're actually dealing with complex situations. And that is something that I don't think you can use AI to replace. So you can use AI to drive more efficiencies on some of the examples that I just told you about in terms of handling, customer connection. But I do think that we still have to use humans to really connect with other humans in an authentic way. I showed my son a piece of copy that was AI generated, and he actually read it and knew immediately it was AI generated, and he can pick up on it, probably because he's in university and his profs can pick up on what's AI generated. So he has to be able to do it for himself when he submits papers. But I think that, authenticity, I don't think it's an oxymoron in terms of authenticity in the age of AI. I think we want and crave even more of it. And so we have to make sure we're continuing to leverage what humans can do is with each other is connect in an authentic way.
I think there's so many variables amongst the buyers, amongst the things they are buying. We published a conversation with Christopher Penn where he talked about how he switched software vendors. He had an AI agent do the research. He went to the website, he put in the credit card, and the new company had no idea how he got there. And the old company had no idea how they lost his business.
Yeah, how he left, right? Why he left.
And so that sort of control in the hands of buyers. But obviously that's a relatively simple purchase where I'm just going to put in a credit card and there's not a whole buying committee going through. So I think the authenticity matters when there's a lot of personal engagement involved in the purchase.
Yep.
But obviously if it's you don't even put in your credit card anymore, Google saves it. So it's so easy to do, just like the simple credit card transaction that like, hey, I did my research, I'm here, goodbye old vendor.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you think a consumer scenario, the algorithms that Instagram can use to be able to really dial you in and recommend purchases that this is something that I get caught with frequently is, they serve up the perfect product and my credit card saved, to your point, I can just click once and buy it. And I can do so on behalf of my business as well through multiple consumer channels. So it's extremely convenient to be able to transact now. I do think that the more complex scenarios, if you're selling an enterprise software solution, for example, or consulting services, for example, you're going to want that conversation. You can vet various firms, a consulting firm or vendors, software vendors via GPT or Perplexity or whatever you want to use. But I think you still have to have the conversation if you're going to make a true investment that's promising to actually, drive a step change within your organization. I mean, that's just nothing you can actually automate. You can automate the research, but I don't think you can outsource to an LLM model the actual diligence and having a conversation with have a conversation with vendors for complex deals.
All right. Mika Yamamoto is the Chief Customer and Marketing Officer at Freshworks. Nice to talk to you again, Mika.
You too, Mike. Thanks for talking to me.